Hello everyone. Happy Feast of the Transfiguration of our Lord. It's a very important feast day. Every August 6th we celebrate and we commemorate the day when Jesus took Peter, James, and John up the mountain where he was transfigured before him. And we actually hear the account of the Transfiguration every Lent. But its feast day is really August 6th. So what happened on this day was that, as I mentioned earlier, Peter brought those three apostles up the mountain and he was transfigured. And what we hear in the gospel is that Jesus became as dazzling white in white garments, and Moses and Elijah appeared. So the apostles saw Jesus in his glorified state, which means that Jesus gave these three apostles a little glimpse of the power and glory of the resurrection. And, we also hear in this account where God speaks in the New Testament for the second time, right? If you think back to the baptism, God, his voice says to Jesus, "You are my beloved Son, with you I am well pleased." But then on the day of the Transfiguration, Jesus doesn't speak to Jesus, but he speaks to the apostles. He says, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him." Right? That God was speaking to the apostles. God was affirming who Jesus was. That Jesus was his Son. And that we are to listen to him. And Jesus, conversed with Moses and Elijah. In some accounts, they talk about the passion that he would undergo. And this is where Peter's famous line comes, right? He says, "Master, it is good that we are here. Let me make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." And so, Jesus gave those three apostles a little preview of what his glory would look like. Fast forward to the night of the Last Supper. Jesus once again brings Peter, James, and John into the Garden of Gethsemane, where he prays to the Father and where he is in agony, right? As is depicted on this stained glass window. The same 3 apostles that Jesus brought up the mountain to show his glory, he also brings to the garden in his agony. What is that telling us? It tells us that glory and suffering are inseparable. That in order to share in the glory of Jesus, to share in the glory of the resurrection, we must also accept the pain of suffering. That we must carry our crosses. And, that really speaks to the life of a Christian. That we must carry our crosses. If we're truly to be his followers, truly to be his disciples, then yes, we are promised resurrection, right? But we also must accept our crosses. That suffering is not meaningless. Suffering is redemptive, right? The cross. That Jesus' suffering was not meaningless. Yes, to the Jews and to the Romans and to those who do not believe, it was a sign of defeat. It was a sign of loss. But we as Christians, we know that was the sign of victory. That even the death, even the tomb, could not hold Jesus back. So brothers and sisters, Do you want to share in the glory of Jesus? Do you want to share in the glory of the resurrection? I'm presuming is yes. Then we must also ask ourselves, are we prepared in the same way to endure the suffering that comes with being a Christian? Yesterday I was at a funeral, and I of a friend whose father passed away. And in the beginning, when we sprinkled the casket or the urn with holy water, what is said is that in the waters of baptism, so and so died and rise with Christ to new life. May he or she now share with him eternal glory. Right? That there is a dying to self before we can share in the glory of God, in the glory of the resurrection. And so, brothers and sisters, on this feast of the Transfiguration, Jesus invites us to go up that mountain to see him glorified, to see him transfigured, so that we might know what our goal is. So that when we go down the mountain and we enter into those valleys of suffering, those valleys of tears, those valleys of pain, we might remember what Jesus showed us on that mountain, so that we might have the grace and the courage and the strength and the hope to continue to walk, to continue to journey towards him. And I just want to close with the preface. And the preface is a prayer that is said as we begin the liturgy of the Eucharist. Right there, it's just so beautiful. It says, "For he revealed his glory in the presence of the chosen witnesses, and filled with the greatest splendor that bodily form which he shares with all humanity, that the scandal of the cross might be removed from the hearts of the disciples, and that he might show how in the body of the whole church is to be fulfilled, was so wonderfully shown forth first in its head. That the scandal of the cross might be removed from the hearts of his disciples. That the cross isn't something to be afraid of. The cross isn't something to be ashamed of. The cross is no scandal. The cross is a sure sign of our salvation, so that he might show how in the body of the whole church is to be fulfilled, that we're to share in his resurrection. Brothers and sisters, on this feast of the Transfiguration, let us be encouraged by the sacrifice of Jesus. Let us be encouraged by the transfiguration of our Lord, that we might be moved to continue to carry our crosses, knowing that the glory is what awaits us. The glory of the resurrection awaits us, if only we say yes to the cross and follow him. Happy feast of the Transfiguration of the Lord. And again, I invite you to go up that mountain with the Lord today and let him speak to you, and listen to the Father say to you, "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." God bless you.